you have decided you want to move to Jamaica. But before you do that, there's a whole lot of things you have to think about. You have to think about, well, first of all, you have to start packing. Or, no, yeah, well, it's one on the list, it's not in order, right? But you have to think about packing. You have to think about all the paperwork that is involved with moving to a new country. And you have to know what it takes in Jamaica, because some of the regulations differ from country to country. You have to think about how you're going to manage your money. So, to do all of this and make it happen smoothly, you have a lot of things to think about and a lot of planning to do. In this video, I'm sharing 10 tips on how to move to Jamaica smoothly. Whether it means that you're retiring here, whether you're moving here as a Jamaican who lived abroad for a while, or you're just relocating for work. There's a lot of planning, and these 10 tips will help you make the move smoothly. Hi, my name is Claudette, and I am your Jamaican Gypsy Granny. Welcome to the channel if you're new here, and if you've been here before, welcome back. And if this kind of content interests you, I would love it if you leave me a subscribe, because it will help my channel to grow and reach more people. So let's dive into the meat of the matter. Alright, now, first on this list, you have to plan ahead and do your research. Okay? You have to understand the areas you're considering to move to, because some places are quieter and some places are more active. So if you want a slower standard of living, you'll have to take that into consideration when you're making. If you want a faster pace, that will also impact where you live. Some communities are lively and fast-paced, while others are quieter and more suited to a slower way of living. So knowing what suits your priorities will save you a lot of stress later on. Okay, so the next thing, after you've made all those, done your research and your planning, the next thing you're going to think about is the paperwork. You have to have your passports, because almost every country you go to now, you need a passport. You have to think about the visas that you're going to need. All right, so there are different visas. If you're coming here on a visitor's visa, that is for research. If you're coming here to live, you need to look at what sort of visa you need to move to Jamaica. Residency applications, if you're going to be trying to live here as a resident, you need to do your research to see what kind of papers you have to present, what are the requirements for acquiring residency in Jamaica, and any documents that you need to have for banking, for healthcare, and all of those things should be sorted out early. If you're retired, it's especially important to make sure pensions and the long-term savings can be accessed smoothly while you're living in Jamaica. This is important, because if you live here and you don't have access to your money, it's a lot of problem. The next thing you need to think about are your housing options. Are you going to rent or buy? Many people find it helpful to rent first, so they can scout out, the different areas that they want to live in, and whether it suits them, whether it's fast-paced, slow-paced, as I mentioned earlier. Also, you have to look at the area. So when you live in an area, you get to know the area and see whether it suits you. Also, you need to consider the security amenities. Like, some areas you can live fine with the door open. I'm not going to recommend it, because you don't know. In anywhere, things happen. But some areas require more security measures than others. My advice to you, however, would be to make sure that you have as many security measures in place as possible. As we say in Jamaica, I always say not Jamaica, I don't remember, but anyway, better safe than sure. Yeah, that's one of the sayings we have in Jamaica. The other thing you have to think about is accessibility. Are you going to be living in an area where you must have a car? Because there are areas in Jamaica where if you don't have a car, it will make getting to and from places even more difficulty. While Uber is available, sometimes if you live too far out of the scope of getting elsewhere. You might even find it difficult to get an Uber. You may have longer waits. Also, it may cost you so much more that it's better you just invest in a car. For retirees, one of the things you need to look at, especially if you have mobility issues, you have to look at how accessible it is with a wheelchair, whether you use a walker, whether you're going to be challenged in walking around. You need to take that into consideration also. Important. Budgeting realistically. You have to make sure that your budget and your spend will be able to support you comfortably. No one wants to go to live somewhere and they're living less than they're comfortable with. No, there are certain amenities in Jamaica that may be more accessible because of your exchange rate or the dollar. But let's face it, even with the difference in exchange rate, depending on what sort of living standard you have, it still will turn out to be expensive even on your extra income. So it is wise to budget properly. All right? You have to think about housing, utilities, it is expensive, groceries, transportation, healthcare. All of these things you must take into accommodation. Do your research and find out what it's going to cost and make sure you have enough to cover it. And also just make sure you have something extra for unexpected happenings, because no matter how you take it, things happen, and sometimes these are outside of the scope of what you planned for. So make sure you have a backup. All right? You are a retiree and you may have health concerns. You need to look into whether the medication you need will be available here, the cost of the medication, whether you need to bring down your medication, whether you're able to bring down your medication. So all of these should factor into your making the move. Public healthcare is available here, but you have to have a lot of patience to sit and wait. But there are also a lot of private healthcare measures that you can use, especially if it is within your budget. Now, the next thing you want to think about is on your finances. You have to understand how the banking system works down here in Jamaica and how money management works. Now, if you're a retiree especially, you should have figured this out by now, but most of us haven't. I haven't. I'm close to the age of retirement. So make sure you understand how to manage your money. You have to learn what are the measures needed for opening an account. It may differ from where you're coming from. You have to know how to manage your currency, right? Because you have to be careful where you do your exchanges. Don't walk around with a lot of cash, and knowing how to transfer funds from your overseas account if you choose to keep it there, to get it here in time for when you need it. All of these things must be things you think about before you come here. You don't want to have to be figuring it out while you're here, especially if an emergency occurs. All right? All right, the next tip I have is healthcare. Even though I touched upon it briefly earlier, I want to make it a point of topic because a lot of us have our healthcare issues. And though Jamaica has both public and private healthcare, what's available can vary by location. So this is also something you're going to need to take into consideration, not only when you're moving here, but when you're considering where you're going to live. Are you going to need to be able to get to a healthcare facility in an emergency very quickly? Also, insurance, healthcare and insurance, you also have to understand. Look into whether the health insurance that you have, where you're coming from, you can transfer it here, because some of them don't allow that. You need to make sure that your health insurance transfers to Jamaica and is acceptable where you're going. So this is another point you need to consider. Your insurance, make sure you have one that is available to you and one that is transferable and one that is accepted here in Jamaica. All right. The next thing on the list is transportation. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we do have public transportation here. Now, if you live within the city, you usually can get around pretty easily. To move from one parish to another, you can do that via public transportation as well. You also have a lot of new. First of all, we have the it's similar to the Greyhound Express. What we have here is the Knutsford Express. So this is here, and you can travel between parishes, you know, using a Knutsford in more comfortable conditions. Other privatized bus systems are coming in play. The JUTC has now started, which is our local transportation. They have now started offering luxury travel between certain parishes, and this will be spread out more at a later date. So these are all the options. You can rent a car, but for local travel you have route taxis, you have buses. I would encourage you, if you're going to use public transportation, you need to understand how it works. It's best not to jump into a car with a lone driver at night by yourself, especially if you're a woman, but it applies to both male and females. Be careful who you're going with. It's better to rely on a registered taxi company and take the usual precautions you would take anywhere in the world by making sure you know who the driver is, somebody know where you're going. Just take all the precautions, because no matter where you go, you have to try to make sure that you're safe with whatever you're doing. All right, one very important thing you're going to have to do if you're going to live here in Jamaica, it would be best if you learned how to embrace the culture and the community you live in, right? Because it depends on where you live, but 9 times out of 10, it helps to know your neighbor, especially if you're living alone and you may, need help from. Sometimes Jamaicans are very friendly, and the culture is very warm and open. So remember, it is good to embrace the culture and the community you live in. Building relationships with your neighbors is very good, because then you get to know each other. Join groups and connect with local services that will help people settle in more comfortably. Some of them are here, and I am planning to be able to offer this service soon. So if you're interested in that, just follow the program. All right, so for retirees especially, it is good for retirees, because sometimes after you've lived away for a while and you're adjusting, especially if you're alone, it's usually good to find people of like ages. There are lots of programs that are available to you that you can find that will help you to settle in comfortably and to make friends, and join groups. I mean, I'm sorry, I did not do my research, but I'm going to look for some and put it somewhere in the description box that retirees who are desirous of finding people of their own age can link up with to make things. But the best thing you do, you don't have to be of your own age group. If you settle into your community and get to know your neighbors, you might not have to look very far. All right, now, when you're packing, I know that most of us probably have a lot of memorabilia that we want to take with us, but pack smart, unless you're going to be packing up everything in a container to send down here. And even then, you have to look at the space you're living in to make sure that everything will hold in there. So first of all, make sure that you have all the essentials, but remember that most everyday items are available in Jamaica. So if it's available here at a reasonable cost, paying the extra money to ship it here may not be worth it. All right? Prioritize the important documents, the medications, the personal items that might be difficult to replace, but if you have not used it in 10 years, nobody carry it. If it's in your yard, you don't need it. All right? The last thing I have to talk with you about is that if you never have patience in your yard, you're going to need to develop it when you come to Jamaica, especially if you're coming from a first world country where things move at a faster pace. Remember, in Jamaica, when we say soon come can mean anything from 1 minute from now to 3 hours from now, right? Customer service kind of moves slow. It's not where you can pick up the phone and call somewhere and then reach your yard today. You'll have to wait. So develop patience and learn to adapt to the pace of living, and you might find it works out better for your health when you're not living in a rush and trying to get everything done yesterday. So these are my 10 tips for moving to Jamaica. I hope it's helpful to you, and if you want more than this, well, all right. Moving to Jamaica can be exciting and rewarding, but preparation really does make a difference. Again, my name is Claudette and I am your Jamaican Gypsy Granny. If anything here was helpful to you and you want to follow this channel and get more tips on moving to Jamaica, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that notification bell as well so you get notified the next time I post a video. Leave a comment. Let me know which one of these tips helped you the most. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can just go into PayPal and leave me a little tip over there. I would really appreciate it. Remember to like the video, share the video. Thanks for sitting here with me, and I hope this was helpful. I'm your Jamaican Gypsy Granny Claudette.